running back situation, not having, Tony. We did get Rico signed back, but, we've got a bunch of good young offensive linemen that we feel good about, and it's time for those guys to step up. And, but overall we feel pretty good. We thought the Kendricks deal was big for us in terms of, having someone in there with Leighton, but we also got Overshone coming back, and feel really good about where he was before he got hurt. And so overall, I'd say we feel good, but we're always, that's has been our modus, is look for things that are efficient for our roster.
So at this point, you don't feel there is more. You always want to hit on your first 3 draft picks, but
sure.
There's not a more, just kind of where you are in roster construction now. So there's going to be even more of a premium placed on those early picks in the draft as far as needing them to contribute early.
Yeah, but I think the draft aligns, a little bit with our needs.
Okay.
I mean, I think the deepest position in this draft is offensive line. So, you're always, every year you're wanting to bring young guys, into the fold in terms of your offensive line depth and,
No doubt. All right, so Stephen Jones believe more than likely that they will be drafted by needs versus BPA. Now, granted, when you look at the bulk of this particular draft heading into the 2024 season, you do have a heavy offensive line draft, whether it's tackle or guard. So quite sure a dynamic player will fall to you at the 24th spot. Now, we do have 7 draft picks out of this draft, but we need more and more help on the interior parts, whether it's defensively or offensively. And I do agree, if you're going to look into this situation and say, okay, Brock Hoffman is banging on the table saying that he would be your foremost number 1 center on this team, well, you can still poke at the offensive line and say, okay, well, JPJ is there available at 24. And then you can also look at Morgan if he's there at 24 to be a tackle. You got so many options that you can pull from. Now, if tags are touching, then I can foresee this team trading back just a little bit so that you can get multitudes of picks, maybe in the 3rd round or even in the 4th round where we have that vacancy area at. Now, by them going with drafting on needs, there are cons and pros with that, ladies and gentlemen. When we look at the complete picture, first and foremost, the Cowboys got 2 holes on the offensive line. Tyron Smith is gone. Granted, he had one of those incentive-based contracts last season, and it worked for us. The dude pretty much played about 12 to 13 games, and when playing, he only allowed 18 pressures and 1 sack. That's phenomenal. That's all pro numbers. He had that. So now we heading into the area of the unknown. We all heard that Jerry Jones said that they're looking forward to Tyler Smith being kicked back at tackle. Hopefully that will guard some of these teams as a strategy to not draft tackle, because in their mind they said the Cowboys don't need tackle, right? They got a Terrence Steele as well as a Tyler Smith. So that is a great strategy ploy by the Jones family. But some people can read through the BS, right? Because even when we needed Tyler Smith to play at tackle last year, he didn't play it. They kept him at guard. So those are things you got to quantify. Also, ladies and gentlemen, keep in mind, we do have issues on the defensive side as it relates to the interior. Now, the Cowboys can ultimately go in and draft an interior guy, whether it be a 1-tech, 3-tech, or even an edge rusher, because we are thin at edge rusher and we are razor blade thin at 1-tech. We only have Mozzie here and Carl Davis, and both of those guys, it's not like a real polished resume that they have. Of course, you can have high upsides on Mozzie, but the reality of it is that we still need help at that spot. On top of that, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about this. The run game, the running backs. Now, we did several simulations as it relates to mock draft. In the 3rd round, Trey Benson was still there. A Breland Allen was still there. A Blake Corum was still there. So there could be a chance in a situation that you can go and get your running back in the 3rd round, and you don't have to worry about getting your interior defensive tackle in the 3rd, and you can just go ahead and get that in the 2nd, because these 2 positions, even though this particular draft is heavy at offensive line, is heavy at defensive stuff. You want to get your defensive interior guys sooner versus waiting later. And overall, if we go on with what this team needs the most, offensive line help, of course, that will help alleviate some of the issues with the quarterback as well as running back. We need help at run game. And if you're looking at defensive interior stuff, yes, we can all say, yeah, we got Kendricks, which is cool, but that's a long tooth. That's a long tooth. So we shouldn't be clear of, hey, not looking at linebacker. We're looking at cores, and linebackers are part of that run support core. So if it's the second round or third round, you still need help at defensive tackle, edge, and as well as linebacker, and you can pretty much so get those things going. Now, trading back would be a great solution here to gain more and more picks, but what you got to do is make sure you hit with your first 3 picks. Ultimately, drafting by needs is a situation tangible for the Cowboys, but you do not want to reach at those spots. So therefore, I'll behoove the Cowboys to still keep BPA in mind, but according to where your need is at, make sure that you take the right chances on those type of guys. Keep in mind what we already have on the team and what we need to also help those that's already here. We need offensive line, interior, linebacker, and running backs. That's just the reality of it.
You know, how we work that, I think that aligns very well with us. But, you know, we're, I think we've always, I thought Will and, and Alex Loomis, they've done a good job of always looking for things that would make sense for us.
Missing out on that 4th round pick, do you feel like if there's a good trade back scenario for you guys, you'd be interested to acquire?
It's you got to play option quarterback when the draft comes around. I mean, you're kind of seeing how things fall. We're early too, in terms of what our board's going to look like. I mean, we don't have our board up yet. And, we've got a feel for the areas where guys should end up. But overall, I think, especially as you move in the draft and we're late in the first round, I mean, you really don't see those opportunities till, the first half of the board it'll come off, and then we'll see where we sit.
So you don't see yourself having more needs to fill this year because of your cap situation and your lack of activity in free agency compared to past year?
I didn't, we've never been real active in free
right,
agency.
But you've done a lot
we've done things, and we're not through. We'll see where we end up on some of these things in terms of, in terms of what makes sense for us as we see what players might be available out there, and if they make sense for us. As we all know, this free agency thing seems to be condensed every year. More and more guys seems to be one big run in the first 3 to 5 days, and then as you've seen lately, there's not a lot of activity out there. But sometimes guys just have to get their hands around where they want to be and what their financial situation is based on how the market's working out.
Well, it's condensed because when the first free agency opened up, that's when you got to go out there and play. Now I get what he's saying, but ultimately you got to dance around in free agency, even though you just said, hey, we don't move a lot in free agency, so this is familiar territory. Well, you might want to change that up, buddy. That's all I'm saying. Now, granted, your philosophy is your philosophy, but overall, the Dallas Cowboys, at the end of the day, he said it, at least admitted and said, hey, he don't dance around in free agency. So I do like the question there far as what they're planning on doing on the back end. Hopefully the Cowboys can do such, find a way to solidify those holes on this particular team, because we got a lot of them. Cowboy Nation, post me your thoughts, post me your concerns down below. That's been my time. I really thank you all for yours. Salute.